Uh, it has to be
Thank you so much.
got to
Morning.
push. I think
Thank you so
yeah,
much.
to push yourself to be consistent. I think that's the key.
100%. Consistency is the big thing. Tremendous.
Thank you so much for giving us the classes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, we are on Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. The last we left one line on Yud Zayin Amud Aleph on 17a2 when we said Omar Rav Nachman by Yitzchak. So we'll go back to that on the first column. We'll go to the Rabbi Tarfon. The Oma Akapachet Bonai Shalochasum Kupachat Basulu. We said the Rabbi Tarfon, he did not make this. He did not agree with the opinion that says that if you have a mardea, you spoke about that goad. Remember that stick. That if you have a stick, which the width of the stick is not a tefach, but the circumference is a tefach. There was an opinion that said that the rabbis made a decree that that goad should act as a tent if it's over a corpse on one side, and there's some other thing on the other side of the goad, underneath the goad, food or utensil, that we will say that the goad will serve as a tent over the corpse and over this item, and therefore will contaminate this item. We said that he did not agree to that. He said it has to be size of a tefach. If it's not 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches, it will not act as a tent to bring contamination to the other side of the goad. So the Gemara said, then he's missing from the 18 decrees. We said there were 18 decrees. So what is he, so how does he what does he do with that? The Gemara said that he held of the Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak af benot kutim nidot me'arisatan bo b'yom gosel. We said that he was of the opinion that women from the kutim, girls under 12, they made a gzeira, they made a decree to say that you have to be concerned that maybe the girls are a nida, and the kutim who only followed the written law did not follow the oral law, and of course written law without oral law is not complete, and therefore maybe it's not authentic, and therefore we don't really have too many kutim left today. So, but because of that, they weren't careful about the laws of nidah for girls under 12. Therefore, you have to be concerned when you have anything that might have been handled by these girls, their daughters that are under 12. They might have had a period, and they don't care about it. So therefore, that's how you have to treat it, as if they were nidah, and therefore you have to be careful regarding tumah, contamination. And the Gemara said, "Ubi idach." So the Gemara says, "Savalok Rameya," and remember we had Rameya. Rameya held that there was regarding forgetting. Remember the story of a person puts utensils under the pipe to receive rainwater, and the question was, even if he put, we spoke about mayim shuvim, that a mikveh has to be made from water that's naturally collected. You can't draw. The first 40 saw, the first critical mass of creating a mikveh has to be natural. Once you have the mikveh, proper mikveh, then you could add to it. You could pour water into it, but if it's not a proper mikveh, if it's not made naturally, you cannot add to the water for the first 40 sa. You can't pour into it. And we had a discussion if you would have a pipe and the person would put something underneath the pipe to catch the water, and we said it was, let's say, raining, and it was not raining, it was clouds, and he put the bucket there with the intention of catching the water. But then the clouds went away. So now that the clouds went away, the bucket's not going to be catching water. There's no rain for the bucket to catch. And he forgot that the bucket was there. He totally forgot that he placed the bucket there. And then subsequently it rained. So the question is, do we say that once the rain went away and you forgot about having the bucket there, would that be considered, and now it subsequently rained, is that considered that it was filled up with intent? Because there has to be a certain um, for intention for the water to be filled up in order for you to, let's say, be considered that it's considered drawn water, or do we say that the fact, do we say it's still a problem because originally you put it there with the intent of it filling up with water? Let's say if a bucket filled up but you had no intention that it should fill up, that bucket would not be considered a problem to pour into the first 40 sa. It would not invalidate it. So here, when you originally had intention to you put the bucket in to collect water, but then the rain moved away, and therefore it's not going to be collecting water, and you forgot about it. So that was a discussion whether that would be considered a problem or not. And Beis Shammai says that is a problem, and so therefore this opinion, Rabbi Tarfon, would also count that as one of the 18. Because if you recall, the Gemara said, if you don't agree, because there was a question whether the law would, whether that would be one of the 18 like Beis Shammai or not. If you hold it's one of the 18, so then we're not missing anything. But if you hold that's not one of the 18, so then we're going to be we're going to be missing in the number. God bless you. And therefore, the Gemara said that now that he also holds of this as one of the 18, because what the Gemara previously stated, because the Gemara had previously stated that one of the rabbis who did not hold that the law by the water of the drawn water would invalidate the mikvah. So where did he get his 18? He got it from the story of the Kutim, the girls of the Kutim. That was one of the 18. And also the Gemara listed this story, and another one of the 18 was this story about the goat being another one of the 18. But Rabbi Tarfon, who does not hold of the gold as being as one of the 18, so he needs to hold of that the one by the Mayim Shuvim, by the water, like Beis Shammai. Okay, so let's see now the next case in the Gemara. Okay, so pretty much we're still filling up the 18, figuring out what are the 18 enactments that were done on that day. V'idach habotzer lagat. We are now on 17a, 17, a new piece of Gemara on the right side. You got it? Everyone have it? Habotzer lagat? You got it, Adam? 17a2. Sorry, 17a2 on the right side. Habotzer lagat. Okay, if somebody goes ahead and he harvests grapes with the intention of making wine from them. If you want to send to the group, Adam, you can send to the group. He harvested the grapes with the intention of making wine. Now, as we said, that there's something to receive contamination. I mean, if you have a food, when it's attached to the ground, does not receive contamination. Right, Mr. Haber? If it's attached to the ground, it doesn't receive contamination. And but when it's detached, when a food is detached, then it has the ability to receive contamination. Mr. Haber, you lean anything in particular or no? Right, when a food becomes detached from the ground, an apple, an orange, wheat, then it has the ability to receive contamination. And I've said, b'derech musar, that when you're attached to the right place, you don't receive, you're not susceptible to contamination. When people are detached, isolated, not connected, not part of community, that's where contamination, now that's vulnerable for contamination. How do you like that idea? So that's something way to remember that law. So we have a situation. So when a food is detached, once it becomes detached, it's not tamei, it's pure, right? Until it becomes contaminated, you're pure. The food is pure. But even if a item that is contaminated, a dead mouse, let's say, a dead weasel, goes on the fruit will not become contaminated, even though it came and got direct contact with a dead mouse or a dead, let's say there was a dead body in the room. Let's say there was a dead body in the room, or it will not contaminate the food. Why? Because in order for the food to become contaminated, it has to be prepared for contamination. That's cool. And the way it becomes prepared, if one of 7 liquids come in contact with the food. If one of 7 liquids come in contact, let's say water, wine, we said uh, honey, we said, I think we said bee honey comes in contact with the wine, with the liquid, blood, milk. I think these are some of the 7 liquids. If they come in contact with the food, that's called, now the food is mukhshar. It's prepared to receive contamination. Now, if a mouse would subsequently go on top of, dead mouse would go on top of it, or dead animal go on top of it, that would contaminate, then the item will become contaminated. It has a mukhshar, like the word kosher. Kosher mean it's prepared. A food that's kosher means it was prepared properly. You soaked, you salt in every chicken, every piece of meat. To be kosher, you have to soak it for a half hour, right? They put the meat in a container of water, and that meat is soaked it's totally immersed in the water for a half hour. And then after they soak it for a half hour, they put the meat on a certain salt board, and they leave it in salt for an hour to draw out the blood. And that is part of the process. Besides the shechita, besides the slaughtering, that's part of the process of making the food kosher, making the food prepared. That's where the word kosher comes from. That's where it's used. And here also it's talking about the word huksha that the Gemara says means that the food is now prepared to receive contamination. So now there's a chidush. In order for the food to receive contamination, the liquid would have to go on a Torah level. The liquid needs to go on the food willingly. That when, if meaning I'm happy that the liquid goes on the food. If let's say I cut apples and they're outside, and or I had food that I wanted to dry and I did not want it to get wet, and then the rain comes on it or something comes on, I'm not interested, or someone pours water on it, if I'm not interested in it and I don't want it, it will not prepare the food for contamination, even though the liquid went on it. So, Rabbi, the liquid went on it, it should be now prepared to receive contamination. But we say the Torah law is that it has to be done, the liquid has to be done willingly. That's something you want it to be there. Now, since you do not want it now, if you're harvesting the grapes for the purpose of making wine out of them, so you would be happy, what you would think, it wouldn't bother you for the liquid to go onto the grapes, because anyways you're in the process of you're going to be pressing the grapes. But here we're talking about a basket, that the basket has holes in it. And since the basket has holes in it, the liquid is going to go to the ground. The liquid is going to be wasted. So therefore, you are not interested. Morning, Ralph.
Morning, Rabbi.
We're on 17A2. on the right side. You're not interested in the liquid. You do not want the liquid to go onto the to the grapes. So therefore, on a Torah level, it will not be considered prepared to receive contamination because this liquid was not done with your you don't want it. Now, but he made this zera. Shammai's of the opinion that rabbinically the rabbis will say that this food now is considered prepared food, even though you did not want the liquid to go onto the food, because the liquid is going to be wasted because it's going through the holes in the bottom of the basket. But nevertheless, he says that it will go ahead and prepare the food for contamination. And as a result of that, you would have to, when you want to go ahead and harvest your grapes into a basket, you would have to make sure that the basket is a basket that is pure, tahar, that's not impure. Because if the basket is on a Torah level, I can have a basket that was contaminated. Let's say came in contact with a dead animal, and I could take my grapes and put my grapes and harvest my grapes in there, and the grapes will not become contaminated. Why not? Because even though the basket is contaminated, but if the basket has holes on the bottom, the basket and the grapes go into that basket, it will not contaminate the grapes. Why not? Because the grapes never were prepared with liquid to receive contamination. And even if the liquid comes out of the grapes in this basket that's contaminated, but since I don't want the liquid to come out of the grapes because the liquid is going to fall to the ground. So therefore, the food never became prepared to receive contamination from the basket. Am I clear? We're getting clear over here, or should I say it again? Say it again. Yes. For food, for grapes, you harvested grapes. Grapes do not receive contamination unless a food to receive contamination is only if the food was prepared first. It has to have been prepared first in order to receive contamination. If it was not, now what does it mean to be prepared? We said food needs to have come in contact with one of 7 liquids. Once it comes in contact with one of the 7 liquids, then the food is now ready to receive contamination. Until it has that liquid, it's not going to receive contamination. In a certain sense, maybe you could say, maybe I'm just thinking out loud, that it's like not a finished product until it has some liquid come in contact with it. And, just like we find, by maaser, perhaps maaser, until you reach a certain level of production, of harvesting and cutting and grinding and bringing the food into the house, there's certain things in order, at what point are you, or making a pile of the food, at what, after you ground it, there's a certain point now you have an obligation of taking maaser, taking off the types. Until the crop, until you didn't finish working the crop and producing the crop, preparing the crop, it's not considered yet ready to, you don't have no obligation of maaser yet. Similarly, we have a thing, if you have a utensil, if you're making a utensil, until it reaches a state of use, it's not a utensil, it won't be able to receive contamination. Perhaps when it comes to food, maybe that's the idea also, that the liquid makes it complete. Perhaps let's just say it like that. But obviously, being that there's all different types of liquids that do the job, so that might not be such a great idea. Maybe that's something you can understand when it comes to water. That water, prepares everything, makes everything, is a very good prep for everything. So once the food has one of these 7 liquids come in contact, at that point, now the food could be ready to receive contamination. How would it receive contamination? If something that's contaminated would come in contact with the food, but only after the food was prepared. How is the food prepared? One of 7 liquids. Then it could receive contamination. But before the 7 liquids come in contact with the food cannot become contaminated, even if a contaminated person touches someone. We're learning now this week's parasha is about leprosy, right? So a person who has leprosy is in a state of contamination. He is a source of contamination. He has the power to contaminate. If he touches someone, he will contaminate that person. If he touches the food, he will contaminate their food. So this food that we're talking about now, these grapes, now here we have a situation. No liquid went on the grapes beforehand. We have grapes that you just harvested the grapes. You're going to the field, and remember, we said as long as when the grapes are in the field, attached to the grapevine, even though it rains, like today it's raining a little bit, it's not prepared for contamination while it's attached to the ground. As much water goes on it, as happy you are that the water, you want it to rain, it will not receive contamination. But now you have a basket, and you're cutting the grapes, Mr. Haber, into the basket. Okay. Now, what about if the basket is contaminated? The basket itself receives contamination. No liquid, no problem. So if I put the grapes in that basket, the grapes will not become contaminated. Let's say they are true. Let's say they will not become contaminated, and therefore, if they're not contaminated, they could touch truma. It will not contaminate. You're not allowed to contaminate truma. It will not contaminate the truma because the grapes are not contaminated, but they never came in contact with liquid, as Adam said. But you know what happened? There's its own liquid that it's coming in contact with. What's the liquid of the grapes? The wine. What happened? You harvested the grapes, and some of the grapes exuded some liquid came out from the grapes and went on to the grapes. So on a Torah level, if the basket would have no holes on the bottom, right, and you are cutting the grapes, you're harvesting the grapes for the purpose of you want to press the grapes, that means you're interested in the liquid. It's not like you're harvesting the grapes to eat the grapes. You plan on eating the grapes, you're not interested in the wine. Here you want the wine. You're cutting the grapes, you're harvesting the grapes, you are part of the Kedem factory. You are the Kedem winery, you're a winery. And you are cutting the grapes because you want to go ahead and eat and make wine. So if there is no hole on the bottom of the basket, you will be happy that the basket collect the wine. Because anyways, you plan on pressing, you cut it for the purpose of pressing it. And therefore, if you're happy that for the wine, you have no problem for the wine, you're happy the wine went on the grapes now will be prepared. And if the basket is contaminated, it would contaminate the grapes. That's if the basket has no hole on the bottom. You have no problem. You're happy that it goes onto the grapes. It doesn't bother you. You're happy about it. But what about if the case of El Gemara is the basket has holes on the bottom? So what's happening with the liquid that's coming out of the grapes, that's going onto the grapes? It's eventually going, where is it going? It's going onto the ground. So do you want the liquid to go onto the grapes? You don't want the liquid to go onto the grapes because if it goes onto the grapes, it's getting lost. It's going to be lost. It's ending up on the ground. You don't want the liquid there. You want the liquid to remain in the grapes, never to leave the grapes in this situation. So therefore, on a Torah level, that because what we said, there's another point. It's not only that the food item has to be prepared, come in contact with liquid, you have to have wanted that the liquid should go onto the food. Because that's like, in a sense, like we said, that completes it. You wanted it. But if you didn't want it, that doesn't prepare it. It's not prepared. Prepared means it's something that you wanted it to happen. That's what the Gemara learns out from the Pasuk, that you have to have something, has to be that the liquid was done l'ratzon. Like what's the kosher example? Because you want the water to go onto the meat, because you need to get the blood out. What's the purpose of soaking the salt? The soaking of the meat is to get out the blood of the meat. If you ever see a butcher's shop with a pail of water that they soak the meat in, the pail is no longer white. The color of the water is red because it drew out the blood. Look who's here. Good to see you. Morning, Boker Tov. So that's on a Torah level. So on a Torah level, if you go ahead and you cut the grapes, you harvested the grapes into a basket, and then the liquid of the grapes, when you harvested, David, some of the liquid went onto the grapes. So we said before, till now we just bring you up to date. In order for a food to be able to receive contamination, it has to have a certain prep. You have to prepare it first. What's called preparing it? One of 7 liquids coming onto the food. Once the liquid came on, let's say water or other things, water, milk, a certain type of liquids that once it comes in contact with the food, now the food, good morning, Shlomo, could receive contamination from something that is contaminated. But if the liquid does not go onto the food, it will not receive contamination, even from someone who is contaminated. It has to be prepared first in order to receive contamination. However, and Beis Shammai says that if you're harvesting grapes, here's Shlomo the case, the guy is harvesting grapes, and liquid came out of the grapes and went onto the grapes. And we said if liquid goes on to wine is one of those liquids that could prepare a food to now be ready to receive contamination. I mean, you have to be prepared to receive contamination. We have to know, maybe there's an idea to think, we don't receive contamination by ourselves. Sometimes when we prepare ourselves to receive contamination, that's how we receive contamination. But the point is, the food to receive contamination has to be prepared. So, and it has to be prepared by a liquid that you want the liquid to be there. If you don't want the liquid to go on it, it's not prepared. It's not called ready to receive contamination. So we said if you're harvesting grapes and some of the juice of the grapes go onto the grapes, and you harvest into a basket, but if the basket has holes on the bottom, you do not want the liquid to go onto the grapes because the liquid is going where? On the floor. So Hillel says those grapes are not prepared to receive contamination, even though it came in contact with the wine. But because the wine is going on the ground, you don't want the wine to go on those grapes because it's getting lost, it's getting ruined, it's getting wasted. Therefore, the grapes are not prepared now to receive contamination because the liquid did not go with your intent. You don't want it. But Shammai says it is prepared for contamination. And that's what the Gemara is going to discuss. Why does Beis Shammai say it's prepared for contamination? You don't want the liquid to be there, right? You want the liquid to stay in the grapes because there's holes in the bottom of the basket. The Gemara is going to suggest one answer for Beis Shammai. What's his reason? Because what happens today? I'm using a basket that has holes in it, and therefore I don't want the liquid to come out. But what about tomorrow? I'll use a basket that has no holes in it, and therefore the liquid remains and collects in the basket. So Beis Shammai is concerned that if you're going to say when the basket has a hole in it, that the liquid that comes out of the grapes, that comes in contact with the grapes, does not prepare the grapes for contamination because I don't want the liquid because it has a hole that's going to the ground. People will make a mistake when I actually use a basket that I do want the liquid, where the liquid will collect. And people will think the same way when I cut the grapes, when I harvested the grapes into the basket, the same way when the basket had a hole in it, it did not prepare the foods for contamination. So too, when the basket doesn't have a hole, when I am interested in the liquid, people will make that mistake. Is that clear, David? When people make mistakes, the Beis Shammai says, Beis Shammai is more of the stricter opinion. He's more strict. What is his strictness? That we're gonna have to be, we're gonna create a contamination on these. We're gonna say that spirits are prepared for contamination, even though on a Torah level they're not prepared, because this basket has holes in it. You do not want the liquid to come out of the grapes that go onto the grapes because they go into the ground. But Shammai is not just thinking about now. There are a lot of people that look at the moment. Shammai is concerned for mistakes, right? He's concerned that people are here to protect the Torah, right? That's the job of the rabbis to protect the Torah, and he's of the opinion that this warrants a rabbinic law, a rabbinic decree to say that these grapes are prepared for contamination. Why? Because of the concern of a case when they really will be prepared. When it was a basket that has no holes in it, and therefore you want the liquid to come in contact. You're happy that it came in contact with the grapes. You're happy the liquid came out of the grapes because that's what you're planning on doing. You're planning on pressing the grapes. And the liquid is not being lost because the liquid is being saved in the container. Is that clear, Ralph, Ronnie? And therefore, Shammai holds that is a necessary rabbinic protection. We're going to protect you, just like the rabbi said, mukseh on Shabbat, right? I can't handle my pen. I can't, I want to just put my pen, in my pocket in my house. I want to pick up my pen just to pick up the pen, or move some other things. The rabbis are concerned that if I'm going to handle the pen, I might write with the pen, right? So the rabbis are creating a certain safeguard. The Torah does not prohibit me from, if I want to go ahead, technically, if I move my phone, I want to hold my phone, hold my phone, I might come to use my phone on Shabbat, right? So therefore, we're going to say, don't handle the phone. You might come to, it could be today, anytime you touch a phone, maybe something happens with it anyway, but a pen doesn't have the life of it. Those are, nothing, a pen doesn't, you touch a pen on Shabbat, there's no prohibition of turning to the Torah to go to pick up the pen and move the pen. It's a little sunny outside. I don't want the sun to go onto my pen, so I move my pen. But you know what? The rabbi said, don't touch it. Why don't touch it? Because I might come to what? To write with it. So that's the question over here. Is there a rabbinic enactment to protect that we need to protect over here the situation? So the Gemara says, Hillel Shama Habotzeh Lagat. If someone's going ahead and harvesting the grapes for the purpose he plans on pressing the grapes, Shammai Omer, not for the purpose of eating the grapes, pressing, Shammai Omer Hukshet. Shammai says it is mukshat. It is prepared to receive contamination. We're gonna say it's called prepared, that the liquid that came out of the grapes prepares it. Hillel says it's not prepared because you do not want the liquid to go onto the grapes. Amalei Hillel Shammai. Hillel says to Shammai, "B'mnei ma botzrin b'tayra ve'ein moskim b'tayra." According to you, that you say that the grapes are prepared for contamination, so that we should say the same thing when it comes to olives. You only say this law when it comes to grapes, but olives, when you harvest the olives for the purpose of pressing the olives, you want to get the oil. We don't find that you hold that you have to use utensils that are clean. Clean meaning non-contaminated utensils. We don't find that you say that. Now, the same logic that applies for grapes should apply for olives. If you're gonna, what happens? The juice of the olives comes out, and you should be afraid that if you're going to use contaminated utensils, the juice, you're gonna want the juice, right? What's gonna happen? In the case of when you're gonna use a utensil that doesn't have a hole in it, what will be the halacha if it has no hole in it? You want the juice to come out. It would contaminate the olives because it has preparation from the juice of the olives itself, prepares the olives. And if you're going to use a utensil that's contaminated, that contaminated vessel will contaminate the olives because the olives have been already prepared for contamination by the fact that the juice has come out of the olives, and you want the juice to come out because it's not going to waste. So in that case, we should also make a gzeira. If you use a basket that has holes in it, right? We say there's no problem to use a basket that has holes in it to collect your olives. But why they should make the same decree? Don't use a basket that has holes in it to collect your olives. Less, because if you're going to use that you're going to use even a utensil that has no holes, and you'll say the same way it's not contaminated when it has holes in it. You're going to say it's not contaminated when it has no holes in it. But we know when it has no holes in it, it would be contaminated. It would receive contamination because it's considered intentional. You want the liquid to come onto it. So that is Hillel's question to Shammai. Why is it that you're only concerned by grapes and you're not concerned by olives? We'll continue tomorrow in our discussion. All the best, everybody. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank you very much. David, you came into a very heavy Gemara over here. A lot going on, as we said. Yes.
Hi, David.
Yes. Ralph Patesh says hi. He sends your best, Ralph. David sends your best. Okay. Have a great day.
You too.
Great day, Ralph. All the best. All the best. All the best.
You too, Rabbi.